We're like, oh, we're live. What's going on?
Good
How
morning. Good
are
morning.
you?
Oh man, I feel really good for everybody that you just step into a stream of a conversation that already started in a fun party that was already cranking. So, um, ready to have fun. So,
Yeah, 100%. All right. So, what is going on, Omniverse? We are here. You probably heard my voice. You know, Jen. We're going to get to know Kevin. We did a little bit of introduction. But this conversation today, and if you're catching on the replay, drop a little thumbs up in the comments so we know that you caught it. But the conversation today is everything you want to know about the abstract process. And I know there's bunches of people out there that have submitted an abstract, have spoken previously at LCI Congress. It's going to be going down this year in Arlington in October. And so we want to make sure people understand and take every opportunity we get to like answer your questions and fill the gaps because there's a ton of stuff going on. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to have Miss Jen introduce herself and then Mr. Kevin. And while that's happening, if you're on the call, where are you coming in from? And have you submitted an abstract for LCI Congress 25? Jennifer Lacy.
Okay. Hello, I am Jennifer Lacy. I do a lot of stuff with Jesse on No BS with Jen and Jess, but I also work for Robbins and Morton, who is a member company with LCI. I'm also a co-chair this year with Keon Zandy for the LCI Congress in Arlington, Texas. So super excited for everything that we're getting to do this year because I get to put my hand on it a little bit more than usual, but also have been a part of this abstract review process for about 5 years. So hopefully I can, add a little bit of detail into the background of what we do and how we do that. I'm sorry, just got a new title, the Director of Building Forward and Lean Practices for Robbins and Morton. So I get to lead a lot of the things across our organization when it comes to lean implementation.
Fancy. And Mr. Kevin, the guru, how are you?
oh, I don't know about guru, but I guess by way of introduction, for those that don't know me, I'm founder and CEO of a consulting firm, Integration Point, mainly focused on, I just use the word alignment. Some of it's about project ILPD, integrated lean project delivery coaching. Some of it's at overall company transformation, but it's getting everybody aligned to what you're trying to achieve, either as an organization or from a project delivery standpoint. That's the shortest way I can say it. Started out as a GC, did 10 years as a trade partner, a few years as an owner's rep, and now trying to help as many companies as I can overall from a lean project delivery and lean business transformation perspective.
We got a comment. Mr. Josh Young says, Director. Fancy. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for the love.
And so, Kevin, obviously you've had major impact in the industry. You've been in it for a long time. Why have you decided to like team up and support the LCI effort?
So, all right, thank you so much so number one, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So my own reflections on that, and I some people have heard me say this before. My first Congress was in 2009, and the first time I went, I was like, wow, because a couple things. Number one, I always refer to all of the industry, support mechanisms as the alphabet soup. You got all of them: DBIA, AIA, AGC, ABC. All of them are doing their best to support the constituents of our industry. All very good things. They have good missions and they deliver good content. LCI is the first space I stepped into that was kind of agnostic to the four legs of the stool of our overall industry. The people who buy construction services, the people that design, the people that overall.
Oh, we got to freeze.
And they're not the only ones. There's a couple of other firm, industry support things, but it's the first place that I stepped into where open sharing was the model. And people who know me, I get into that. That's kind of my behavioral profile is like, hey, we can all learn together, we can learn faster, et cetera. So it was the first space I really stepped into. And when I first attended Congress, man, it was 130 people. It was in Boulder, Colorado, and it was an amazing experience of somebody presenting information, telling our project experience, telling our company experience, they're the stage, right? And then the veil would drop as soon as they finished presenting, and it was like an open free for all of like, okay, what do we do with that? Like, how do we learn? And so if you're a presenter, you're getting a direct dialogue and feedback from the crowd, and the dialogue is advancing. And one of the really cool things that we're talking about now in the Congress planning about how do we like recreate this. If you stuck around for Friday morning, Greg Howell, I got to God bless Greg Howell, Hal Maycomer, and Glenn Ballard, because that's at least my intro. I know there's way more people that were there in the earlier days, but especially Greg, because he was a wild child, and one of those people that believed like was crazy enough to believe that they could change the industry, and I love those people. And go, yes, I'm on board. And if you stuck around for Friday morning, there would be a debrief, and it would just be a reflection on, okay, we all heard the same stuff, like what do we think, what is the
Mm,
next advancing edge, what do we do, what do plus delta, how do we make a better Congress experience. So I'll kind of leave it with that and just say that was my first intro. If you go to COP meetings in your local market and things like that, you'll see that same sharing. That's what hooked me in the first place, overall. And if you look at LCI in general, there's a ton of volunteers, and it's
yes.
people who are caught on to the same mission. And then I got to give props to Dan and the whole entire team. At You really look at it, it's a very small structure and a lean environment that helps us all have a dialogue about what's important about the industry. And we got to give, I know she was supposed to be on the call, huge props to Joan Picariello from LCI, because a lot of the trains leave and get to the station on both the Congress front and the design forum front, because Joan, like I was a chair in 2018. I can't even imagine like how that, like it comes and goes. And it's not just her, the whole team there. Um, um, Everybody is doing a fantastic job to just support us and getting the word out and actually talking to one another about the cool stuff that we're all doing from a lean project delivery perspective. So
Yeah,
that's my
yeah, and I'll add like part of the motivation behind these live streams, because we're gonna have a bunch of them between now and October, is to highlight the invisible people that are either volunteering or on LCI staff for the freaking work they do, because it's an immense amount of work. We live streamed with Miss Eileen last time, talking about sponsorships and exhibitors. And if y'all didn't know, there are still sponsorship and exhibit opportunities available, just so you don't forget. Um, and you have been, Mr. Kevin, you have been a part of it. So you got on, when I heard you got hooked, you said, man, this is awesome. I need to be a part of this. I want to contribute. And you've been tinkering with the abstract process for some time now.
so
uh,
yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So continuous improvement is the mode of operation, right? And so, number one, I had been involved with local COP stuff overall. I started to get engaged with Congress beyond just attending and then presenting and stuff like that. And then in the year 2017, late 2016, Joan and team had reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to be chair for the Orlando Congress?" And I had literally just moved down to Florida, so I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it. Let's figure it out." And so, one of the really good things about Congress planning is if you're the chair for the following year, you are automatically a participant, a Congress planning team member, and you shadow the year before. So I got to shadow Anaheim, and I knew a whole bunch of people involved in planning Congress before that, coming into it. So I was chair for 2018, and I just real quick, I got to tell a quick story. I hope it fits within
Come
the
on,
time
you're
frame.
good.
But at the time in my career, I was working for Limbach, a fantastic national mechanical firm, and my own brain was um, dug deep on lean transformation, and we were putting together some operational tools that supported how our foremen plan projects and all of our key operational focuses. And at the same time, I was self-teaching myself JavaScript. So this is a little bit of background story, but we were putting together a couple of tools repetitive motion back to the foreman and to do all those things. So, and as a kid, I grew up loving solving problems in calculus and physics. The little dopamine rush of like you struggle with something for a while, you struggle with something, and then boom, you hit it. So I got into a little bit of coding for a period of that time there. So that's a little bit of backdrop. Kev's brain was processing his world that way. And then when I took on the role as chair, I sat down with Joan, and I actually, Chris Dierks was another person. Hal was another person I talked to about like, how did we select abstracts in the past, and went through the process. So it's got the buildup of the continuous improvement all the way along that way. And then from a lean perspective, you got to understand, Kevin Labrecque doesn't like to touch stuff twice. And I do it all the time. And it drives me absolutely nuts. And it's like, well, hold on. Let's look at the overall process, and let's look at how we streamline the whole thing. So that's enough of a backdrop to say that Joan and I sat down and we were like, well, what's important here? And how do we then not automate? I don't want people to be like, this is an automatic selection thing. It is absolutely not. There's a lot of human brains and diversity and thinking, and we'll describe that for a second. But we just took a step back from the process and said, how do we make this a little bit easier and not reinvent the wheel every year? So that was the start of this whole entire story. Was, I had a little bit of programming, we were figuring it out, and we said, okay, this is what's really important about this. And then we put a system in place. That system, every year we debrief with the selecting team, and we go, what worked, what didn't work, and then we try to make it better. And I'm just blessed to be involved since that point to kind of keep this thing kind of going. And it doesn't necessarily need me to make it. I mean, there's so many. I look at Jen, I look at Jessica Kelly, I look at Matt Bleakley, I look at Dan Shirkley. I mean, like, so many people have been in and involved around the selection process, that the thought process around it has a nucleus of it could continue with or without Kevin Labrecque for sure. And so we talk about, so the crowd wants to maybe hear, what does that look like, or how do we do it from an overall perspective? So two things. First thing is, you got to submit an abstract. So there's a web form, and that gets created by Threshold Media, one of the third parties for LCI, and we look at the questions we ask every year with intentionality. How do we make it shorter? How do we make you focus on saying, like, get your story tight? So we limit the characters a little bit and just say, you got to say what you mean to say in that abstract, and really focus in on what you're trying to tell overall. What are some of the lean principles at play? Is there a unique situation? Who's telling the story with you? All of those things are little, questions that we ask overall, that are the request overall. And so we invite everyone, like, if you've got an insight about that, or you say it was still a little hard or something like that, please, let the team know, and we'll streamline it. I also have to make the comment that over the years, there was now two different, like, presentation types that evolved over the years. There's the full blown presentation. It's 45 minutes, might include a whole team. It might include just a couple of people from your firm, whatever it is. It's a 45-minute presentation. We also created the live labs, which two of those exist in that same time period, and they're focused on a tool, and it's a very practical application. You're showing, this is what we use, this is what we got from it, these are the pluses, the minuses, and we try to focus those on the field. But any tool is welcome, but it's really just like, give me something I could walk away with tomorrow and I could use overall. So the questions in the abstract submission form kind of evolved around that, and you'll see things like, can you submit a video or an example of the tool, or picture of the tool in play? It's stuff like that has evolved over the years. So first step is, you're submitting something.
It's okay. Question, and Jennifer, help me with this, because I'm simple. And folks out there in the Omniverse, if you have questions about the abstract thing, whatever that is, drop them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. But so I hear the word abstract, and clearly the deadline to submit has passed. And that's okay, because you can go still, you said it earlier, Kevin, you can still do your presentation at the local COP, or even COPs outside of your area, because they do have like virtual lunch and learn webinar type stuff. Now, when I hear abstract, that word is abstract. Do I need to have my whole PowerPoint presentation polished and completed to submit it? What the hell does the abstract look like?
It should kind of sound like this in the simple terms. I have a story to tell. That's as simple, like that's as simple as you can say it. And the questions themselves guide you a little bit. Like, what would be the key takeaways from your story? Like, what are the principles at play? Who's going to tell that story with you? Is it a robust representation if you're trying to tell a whole project story? Like, do you have, if you're a GC, do you got a trade partner with you trying to tell the story? Is the owner involved? We ask those questions, but the whole thing is, I have a story to tell.
Yeah. Okay. So
Because,
what I'm hearing, two things. You know, Mr. Bill Greek, Mr.
oh,
Bill
geez,
Greek is saying, hello, Kevin.
hey, Bill.
And then we got Miss Sarah. She says, good morning. What's up? What are we talking? We are talking about the abstract process, submitting your story of applying lean stuff in your space, being the construction industry. And that does it, like it could be in the field, it could be in the office, but in the industry under the context of applying the lean principles and lean stuff. And so what I've heard so far is it could be about tools. It what's the story, what's the takeaway? And I know, having been a participant multiple times, I love hearing the pain, right? The pain of actually doing it, not the highlight reel, but what the hell did we learn and what can I expect if I'm going to do this? And you can include the GC, the trade, the owner, whomever, whichever stakeholder is involved. If that is articulated in the story when we're submitting, that is helpful in the selection process. Did I catch that?
Yeah. And you added one little layer to that, which is the pain and all of that stuff. I mean, everybody in our practicing community knows that none of this comes easy, and open reflection on the challenges you hit along the way are part of us all learning together. So you don't have to put the rosy colored glasses on for everyone to see it and hear it, because they're not gonna execute their journey in the same way with rosy colored glasses on. It just ain't gonna happen that way. So for you to openly reflect on what you learned along the way and all of those things is part of us all advancing together. And I bet you more people in the crowd will be able to immediately apply what you're talking about when they hear about the pain too, because now they're coming at it open eyes and with kind of like an understanding and going, okay, I understand the rocks in the road. You're giving me the layout of the land in terms of applying this tool or the behaviors. And it's like, now I can really, I've got a leg up. I've got a starting point that gets me two steps further than I was yesterday. And I think that's an important part of the overall experience. So
10-4. Okay. Now you mentioned like coding, and I know, and Jennifer, I know you know, because this is where we met. The selection process, once the abstracts are submitted, which is your story, right? What's your story? What are the principles? Who are the players? There's some magical coding stuff, but there's also a human element, and that's, folks, if y'all don't know, that's where Jennifer and I met on the abstract review group. So Jen, I know you've been doing that abstract review stuff for a while. Why did you do it, and what does that look like?
Well, can I backtrack just a second, because I want to add to something that Kevin said. Is the lean construction, the space that the three of us are in a lot. There's a lot of people doing a lot of really good things, and I found that people that are high performing and that are out there changing the world are not very good at celebrating the things they're doing. So I just want to level set that, because I go to a lot of conferences and I get to hear teams talk about all these great things, and I walk away going, that was great, but how does that relate to me? Or how can I apply that? Or what can I do with that then can help me be better? And I see that a lot. And I think what Kevin has done with the abstract review process and we've done as it's evolved and we've changed the questions or the ratings or how we look at the submissions, is that we try to ask, like he said, what is the story you're trying to tell? Do you have the right people helping tell the story? Are you trying to tell it for someone else, or are you letting them tell their own story? And then also, when I leave that room, can I go do something? And so we try very hard in the abstract review submission, the questions we ask, and also what we're looking at during the review. Is this something that, if I'm new to lean, if I'm in 5 years into lean, if I'm 10 years into lean, doesn't matter. If I go and I sit in this room, will I be able to go, dang, like now I can go get better?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make that point because I know sometimes people are like, yeah, but we're early on our journey, or, oh, we haven't done all these crazy, wonderful things. That's great because there's a lot of people there that have not done it either. And they're trying to figure it out. And so, again, I just want to make sure we're encouraging everybody that, yes, it's hard sometimes to beat our chest and go, look at me, because we just want to go do really cool things. But this is a platform and a place to be able to do that, to help other people get better. So, sorry, I need to make that point. How did I get involved? I got involved in the transition from 18 to 19 because 19 was in Fort Worth, which was here in Texas, and Joe Donnarumma was the chair, and he recruited Nathan and I to kind of be co-chairs, kind of like sub-chairs under him to help him. And so I got to be a part of everything that had to do with him leading that. And because of that, I got brought into the abstract review process at that point. And I want to add on, it's also where we launched Live Labs. And the way that those came about, the other presentation style was that we used to do lean labs, which is just like a poster and you kind of talk through a process. And we realized that the hands-on part of construction was missing. And so we transitioned into, how do we get people to come in and talk through these tools and show them and act and really let people see how they work. And that was the transition into Live Labs, which is now, we've been able to carry that on to where people can actually see the people doing the work, the people that are putting those things in place, and get to experience that, ask questions, and learn more than just, oh, it's on a piece of paper and I can maybe I can, understand what their process is. They actually get to experience it.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Back to the question. What is the abstract? If you're on the abstract review group, what does that look like?
So let's.
Yeah,
okay, you answer. Well, let me just talk to configuration, just so everybody knows. Like, it's number one. Every year, there's about 25 people that review all of the abstracts, and we put at least 3 eyes on every abstract, and it's blind. And you get the way the algorithm you can't read your own company's abstract. That's pretty obvious overall. But we try to get 3 independent views. And think about the independent views. We've got every leg of the industry represented. We got owners, we got architects, engineers, we've got GCs, we got trade partners, all represented in that selection committee. We also have brand newbies to Congress. We've got the fresh open eyes of like the experience. We've got the long-term people who have been at Congress in there. We've got a couple of core nucleus that have been kind of through this process over the years, and that rotates with a couple of, like Jen said, she's been involved. Like, there's a couple of people that are helping to provide consistency in conversation that is more about how do we look at things overall. And then, am I missing anything else, Jen, in terms of diversity in people that we have?
The local. So usually, like if we're doing it in Arlington this year, then usually they'll go, hey, do you have any local people? Because that's a good flavor, because you want to know kind of what the local community is looking for.
Yep. Nice. And then, so all of that, and I got to bang that drum, and we're running out of time, but every year we do it in a location, and if we can honor and respect that location, we're in Texas. It's big. Let's go big. Like, that's the whole thing. We were in New Orleans. New Orleans gave it its own. Detroit, like, give it their own vibe, and that's part of the voice into the abstract selection process too. So let's just talk real quick from a data numerical perspective. All of the 3 to 4 people, every abstract, it's kind of randomized. Everybody weighs in. There's an algorithm in the background that takes care of, there's easy voters and hard voters, and it shows us the gap and the spread and saying, okay, we had all easier voters on this one. If you look at the overall thing, it just gives us a little visual cue overall. And then we get a smaller subset of that team of 25, and we get together face and face, which we're about to do next week.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, next week. So in Arlington. And so that smaller subset team gets together. And one of the really cool things that we've added in over the years is every single one of those reviewers picks their top 3. and they say why.
Mm.
And they put it in their comments and automatically, but we have a call. We just had it last week of like, all right, everybody, what's your whys? All of that. And this I'm getting chills. This common picture, this common vision starts to come in play, and then that smaller subset team starts to like slice and dice everything from a data and numerical perspective. Do that like fairly honestly, look at it, pull some of the ratings out. Is the owner included in that story? Yes or no? And don't let that be the guiding sway of it. Let's look at Venn diagram, what's in, what's out, and we sort of massage and push and really get to what I'll call a Sophie's Choice moment by the end of 2 days, where it's like there's just too much good content. There always is, and it goes back to some of this should spill over to the COPs, but it gets us to a point where we go, how do we get to the cream of the crop? And here's the really cool, the really cool handoff element too. There's a whole bunch of we leave breadcrumbs. It's like if anybody's old enough and they remember the Brady Bunch episode where they went to Hawaii and they left the popcorn trail, right? We leave the breadcrumbs for the next team. So to hand off to something called champions in Congress. And the champions are paired with each of those selected presentations to help continue that original thought, find that diamond in the rough and really hone the diamond overall, keep the narrowed focus on the story that you're trying to tell, some good Congress experience out there. We hand the whole thing off to the champions. There's a whole popcorn trail there that basically says, hey, let's help make this be the best show that we possibly can. And it's a stopping point for 1 second, because sometimes there's conditional exceptions on an abstract which go, hey, we see the diamond in the rough, like you submitted on behalf of your firm, but what would be really cool if you got your trade partner to come in and present you, or you drag the architect engineer, or if the owner support the story. Like we will ask those questions and go, love the story, we need a quick response. Is this something that you can do? And that's called a conditional acceptance. And then so you'll see an email from Joan that basically says, hey, look, you're on the cusp here. We just need to, see that confirmation. So some of you might see something like that. And then by, I think I'm going to get the date wrong and Joan's going to kill me. I think by May 4th or May 2nd, everybody should see an email. So anybody that submitted, you should know either way.
I think it's mid-May, but I'm just going to clarify. I think it's mid-May.
Yep. Okay. And then go back to the COP thing. We send to Denise Erminger and all of the COP leaders, here's all of the abstracts. Here's the ones that weren't selected. Were the Sophie's Choice, like they were the, like they can't, we only have 35 plus minus slots in Congress out of 200, submissions. And it's like, these are the other great stories that somebody needs to hear in a local market. Let's not wait a year. Let's make sure the dialogue's happening somewhere, everywhere, all at once. So that's another part of the overall process that the system just keeps feeding itself on. And then I do feel obligated to, one of the things that we do once everything has been selected, we'll get all of the raters back on the line. We'll explain, hey, this is where the cards fell, like understand that. Now let's talk about process. What worked this year? What can be improved? Et cetera. So the whole entire cycle just starts again. And then we're grabbing what we learned this year and we're putting it into next year. There's the automation piece, which is cool, but that's not even it. It's the human brains engaged in a lean way of running or planning and running Congress in a lean fashion. Like overall, has that continuous improvement embedded in it, and I get my juice from that. Like that's what we're trying to do every year. So
awesome. All right, Jen, what gaps do we need to be filled?
I think, well, for me, a couple, like Kevin said, like every year it's local. So they focus on, yes, we're getting abstracts from across the nation, across the country, across the world. But there's also a local flavor. And so every year the Congress Planning Committee creates a conditions of satisfaction for that local event. And all of our abstract reviewers have access to that conditions of satisfaction as they are reviewing. So like all the nuances of the people and their experience, but also, hey, in Arlington, this is what we are wanting to focus on, and fun is in there. So we, like, what are the things that are going to make this fun and entertaining, but also get people excited to build relationships? I think those are things on our conditions of satisfaction that plays into, so what is some of the messaging that we want to do in these breakout sessions? What are some of the messaging that we want to make sure people know that we're trying to build a better industry? So we also incorporate that in as we're reviewing it, keeping that in the back of our head as well.
Nice. All right, folks. So I'm going to Jessify what I think I heard. If you submitted an abstract, there are a group of ballers that are going to be meeting in Arlington next week to do the next phase of the selection. I don't have the list. Otherwise, I would be selling the list of those people so that you can go and cajole and bribe them. But don't do that. You're going to be doing that, having the cuss and discuss, and to ensure that the cream of the crop presentations are going to be available for all of the attendees that are going to be at like that's the whole point. How do you create the best experience for people to show up, take, share, and go home and apply that stuff to make your day better? Mid-May is when the announcements will be made via email. So if you submitted an abstract, you're going to get an email that's going to say, good to go, not this time, or conditional, hey, consider bringing in another party to come and team up or co-present or whatever. And so, folks, appreciate y'all being here. Give y'all a heads up. Abstracts and the presentations are not the only part of Congress. We also have Gemba Day. And so on April 23rd, we're going to be live streaming again and answer some questions and give some insight as to what Gemba Day is and what you can expect in Arlington in October. So, Kevin, how you feeling, brother?
Very good. Hey, wait, I got to say one more thing, and it's a little bit of a plug. And because we go big in Texas, next week involves AC/DC in town in Texas, and I'm super excited for that. So for those about to rock in Congress, like it's Texas, it's happening, man. We're doing it. So
that's what I'm talking about. All right, Dan, take us home.
No, we're good. I'm excited. I mean, I couldn't be more excited just because Keon and I have already set our goals higher than anything that they've ever done before. And that is what we're reaching for. And we know these live streams, the things we're trying to do, the things we're trying to improve are leading up to the pinnacle of what we hope is the most epic Congress that we've ever had.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, folks, thanks for coming. If you're on the replay, let us know. And I hope to see you in October.
Yes.
Ending now. Chicken banana.